Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CRATV, where we talk about politics, policy, and politicians, all from a conservative perspective, right here in the great state of California. We would like to let you know that we very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. Would also like to take a moment to talk to you a little bit about the California Republican Assembly, the state's largest and fastest growing conservative grassroots organization. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party, and we're working to help elect conservative-minded folks at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. We would very much appreciate it if you would go to our website, that's cragop.org, that's cragop.org. Check it out. Check us out. Look at what it is that we've got going on. We would encourage you to become a member today. Also want to remind you, we have a national convention coming up. That's right. The National Federation of Republican Assemblies is going to be taking place September 28th, September 26th through the 28th. Would love to encourage you to go to the website that we have for that particular event. That website is nfraconvention.com. That's nfraconvention.com. Let me get the website up here for you. There we go. There you got the website right there. And if you go there, you'll learn about the biennial convention. You'll know that it's taking place right here in California at the Hilton Anaheim, right there on 777 Convention Way. You can check out all the speakers, all the events that are going to be going on. Would love for you to come and check out that event. Trust me, it is going to be something. Also coming up, we've got our board of directors meeting that is going to be taking place on August 23rd. That's right, it's going to be taking place on August 23rd. It's going to be held in Bakersfield, California. If you want to find out and be right there as key decisions are being made by the California Republican Assembly for the California Republican Assembly, well, guess what? This is the place that you need to be. You can find all of this information at our website, cragop.org. Once again, that's cragop.org. Also want to remind you, there's an important bill that we need to address, and that's Assembly Bill 495. Assembly Bill 495 is a very dangerous redefinition of temporary guardianship. It basically, with a signature, would allow someone to make medical decisions for your child, would allow someone to enroll your child in school, help them to make educational decisions for your child. It gives them temporary custody simply by signing an affidavit. Folks, this is a very, very dangerous piece of legislation. I don't know that it was the intent of the author to make it this broad, but I can tell you this, it is dangerous. Now, there's going to be a rally at the state capitol on August 19th. You need to be there. That's a week from today. You need to be there to make your voices heard. Also, we have on our website, on our Take Action page, we actually have where you can go there and you can let folks know, you can let members of the legislature know your position on AB 495. Here we have, if you go there, you look, we have a link to the actual bill so you can read it for yourself. We've got a description of the bill. We can tell you where the bill is at in the process. And down here at the bottom, you can actually sign a petition. That's right, sign a petition or send an email, because these go directly to Republican and Democratic leadership in the legislature, as well as the folks who are going to be voting on this piece of legislation. And you notice here, there's a statement that's here. Now, you can modify this statement for yourself, or you can send it. It's already pre-written. Folks, we make it very, very easy for you to make your voices heard. So here's the deal. We need you to make your voices heard. It's really not that hard. It really isn't. We just need you to go there and, once again, make your voices heard on AB 495. Oppose AB 495. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. We have with us a special guest, a gentleman who is a sheriff, a supporter of the Second Amendment, a supporter of liberty, someone who has understands the concept of local government and boots on the ground government. And he is also a candidate running for governor here in the great state of California. So will you please welcome to the program, Sheriff Chad Bianco.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
It's always wonderful to have you, sir. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. What made you decide that you wanted to run for sheriff?
Well, it certainly wasn't one thing. It was a combination of multiple things over multiple years. Being let me get this out of the right off of the bat. I I did not wake up one day and say that I wanted to be the governor, and certainly in my life, never would I have ever wanted to or thought about running for this position. But over the last 7 years as the sheriff of Riverside, and particularly after the nightmare we had of 2020, I've become a fixture in Sacramento, fighting for public safety, fighting for the against the overreach of our legislature and the bad bills that they were passing with public safety. And over that time, when you're there and when you're walking those halls, you see the same people over and over and over again, and the same lobbyists, the same teachers, the same building groups, those types of things. And you start talking to them, you get to know them, and I've realized over the years that we're fighting the same people, and every single industry, whether it's law enforcement or building or teaching or restaurants or anything, you can pick your group. Everyone has the same issue with the same people, and you realize, or I realized, California is amazing. We already know we have the perfect state, the perfect weather, but every part of California with people is amazing also. We have the best innovation. We have the most hardest workers. It's a fantastic state, but we're all being punished, or we're all being held back, or we're all being controlled by an out of control government. And with all of this happening and going through Prop 36 and truly traveling the state as the law enforcement face of Prop 36, I got to meet with a bunch of groups, meet with a bunch of people, and the topic started happening of, why don't you run for governor? Why don't you run for governor? So I spent a year and a half saying no, that I would never do anything like that. And eventually, with the passage of Prop 36, overwhelmingly passing, knowing that 70% of this state, every single county, the number one priority is public safety always. And now they want a completely different direction of public safety than what our legislature and what our governor is willing to give them. And I realized that with Newsom leaving, there was probably, at the time, there was probably 6 or 8 Democrats who had already announced, and they were prominent Democrats. And I realized very quickly with each added name that these are the exact same names, the exact same faces, the same politicians that have put us here in this position over the last 20 years. And unfortunately, I know from them that things will either stay the same that they are with Newsom, or they're going to get worse if one of them wins. And how politics work, I knew that we were running out of time to actually mount a real campaign. And there were a lot of people behind the scenes trying to get me run because of my name recognition, because of the position that I hold, the elected office that I hold. And eventually I agreed. I gave in. It was an interesting time when I did. That decision was made for me at the presidential inauguration after watching his speech. And it was something that I realized had to be done, and I was willing to sacrifice everything that I have here. I truly have to, everyone has to believe me when I tell you, I have the most perfect job in my life that I can imagine. I make a good living. My department loves me. The county loves me. I will be the sheriff here for many elections to come because of how I've handled law enforcement here and the popularity that I have amongst our voters. And I'm willing to sacrifice my family for a year and a half of the lies and the ugliness that we know is going to come with this campaign. And I'm doing it because I know that if it's going to happen, I have the best shot of making it happen. We've got to win a statewide election by not only rallying all of the Republicans and the majority of independent voters, but we've got to pull Democrats too. And the political wisdom is that I'm the only candidate that can do that in this election. And it's going to be on the backs of law enforcement. It's going to be on the back of 32 years of public service that is outside of politics, of serving people because you like serving people, not because they're from a certain party or they're from a certain group. And that is held true in Nevada, and we're going to duplicate their efforts there. And Governor Lombardo is a friend of mine, and we've talked repeatedly about this, and we're going to duplicate his efforts and bring it to a grander scale and do the same thing for California.
All right, let's get into some specific issues. As you saw, we opened the program talking about AB 495, which is a dangerous redefinition of guardianship. Share with me a little bit about your perspective on it, and let the folks know. I know you know it's a bill that needs to die. Let folks know why this bill is so dangerous.
Yeah, so the thing that people don't actually realize or understand is our legislators, none of them write these bills. These bills are not written by legislators like it used to be. Like, you're electing people to come in and they write these bills and then they get them fixed, and then we argue about them and get them passed. That's not how it happens. They're written by special interest groups and predominantly attorneys for special interest groups. My guess, I haven't been told specifically on this one, but just the nature of it, my guess is it's the ACLU wrote this, and then they find a safe, deep Democrat area assembly or Senate person to sponsor the bill, and then that's how it gets sponsored and pushed through. So the problem, and what you have to realize with all of this, and how our government has become so broken, is the laws are written very ambiguous. They're very generic. They're very ambiguous. The bill, if you read the bill, it's like, I mean, you got to look into it and look into things to see what it really means or what it could possibly mean. So some of the words that are added are important. Some of the words that are left out are just as important, because what happens is they pass a bill that nobody cares about because it seems pretty simple, and then they use the regulatory process to go in and completely change the tone or change the original intent for their specific needs. And this is one of those bills. So on its surface, it sounds good, and they did the same thing that they do with every bad bill. They name it something that, how in the world could you not be for it? So they name a bill that, I mean, you read it and it's like, oh, that sounds like a pretty good bill. Maybe that should be okay. We should help the kids of parents that are deported. And it's easy to get everybody behind it because they only read the headline. You don't go into it. So fortunately for all of us, a lot of people read into this and then started talking about it. And when you truly get into it, there's a couple of things that really pop out for me because I'm in law enforcement. And so I'm looking at that criminally. If it was a good bill and that's all they meant it for, was to make sure we take care of kids if their parents got deported, I look at it as an investigator and say, well, would that even be possible in the first place? And then you only have to make a quick call to anyone in the federal government or to immigration or the court system and say that if a parent is deported, we're not going to abandon their kids while they're at school and then just deport their parents. It doesn't work that way. So there are many, many avenues to protect the kids if their parents are deported in the first place, and deportations usually don't happen immediately anyway. You just get a court date to come back. So right off of the bat, you know that there's something wrong with this, because are we really trying to protect the kids? And I don't think we are, because we already protect the kids. So now what does it really mean? So then you get down in the bill, and one of the glaring words are it's exempting from civil and criminal liability the school. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. Where would there even be civil or criminal liability? You're making it to where the school can do whatever they want, and they can just fall back and say, oh, I didn't know. And, oh, we just followed the law. And from my perspective, from what we've witnessed in the past 7 years and some bills that have been passed, and now we experience those negative things, this is a big red flag, because they've already protected the schools, the school administrators, from something happening to a child outside the parent's knowledge. And then there's other things in it the court can issue a guardianship. So if you really wanted, if you were, you know whether or not you're illegal or not. So if you're illegal, you better appoint a guardian for your kids. And that's easy. Just get the information out there and say, appoint a guardian for your kids just in case the worst case scenario happens and you get deported. You need a guardian for your kids. And then guardianship is court regulated, and they actually do backgrounds, and they actually make sure, and government gets involved to make sure that these people are legitimate and they can care for their kids. But they've bypassed that. They mention it so you think that's what it's talking about, but then when it gets down in the wording of the bill, it's no longer there. You don't have to be that legal guardian. You don't have to be that court person. You just need that form, and then they're telling you it's protected because they're signing under the penalty of perjury. And then so a worst case scenario is kidnapping. Well, let me tell you something. The punishment for kidnapping is worse than perjury. So if you're going to kidnap, do you really care that you're perjuring yourself? You really don't. So by throwing that out all the time as one of the reasons why we're all crazy and you don't have to worry because they're signing under penalty of perjury, that is absolutely nothing.
If I can interrupt you real quick, a lot of people seem to think that, well, the court is involved in the process. I'm like, this is simply an affidavit. The court has no involvement in this process. This is literally just filling it out. The closest thing to something legal happening is that it's notarized.
Yeah. So the wording is very important because they expect you to read it. So as you read the bill, it's talking about government, it's talking about courts, it's talking about all these things, and then all of a sudden it transfers into this affidavit. The affidavit is not court. It's just a piece of paper that anybody can go in and write down. And then it even says in there, without the knowledge of the parents, and all they have to do is say, I couldn't get a hold of the parents. And nobody's going to check. Nobody's going to try. And that's what the affidavit is for.
And by the way, just real quick, all of the conversation about the courts and all of that, and the intent of that's all in the intent language, which, by the way, means absolutely nothing, because when they take the language of the bill and they put it into law, the intent language doesn't go with it. That only comes up when you are in court and they're trying to determine what the intent of the bill was.
Yeah. So here's the big thing for me. We're talking about school, we're talking about guardianship, we're talking about protecting the kids, we're talking about, the whole thing is mom or dad or both are deported, and now we don't want poor child left alone, so we need somebody to give the child to. That all sounds all fantastic. So why then did they put in the bill that affidavit allows for a person to make medical choices for the student? So right there, what are we talking? What is everything else going on with this crazy legislature? And the hot topic now is trans. This is about the school obtaining permission and exempting themselves from liability when a teacher acts as the guardian and says they're confiding in me, so I'll sign under penalty of perjury, and for medical care, for transition care, for medication, for that process, hormones, all of those things. This all will apply under this because someone is signing that they can do it. You can't check with the parents to do it, and you can't tell the parents that the child may be transitioning. So now you have the person that's arranging it signing that they're going to take to the medical to administer the drugs or get the drugs, whatever the case may be. This is an asinine bill that has so many things wrong with it. Rightfully so, we're making a big deal out of this and making a march on the Capitol so our voices are heard, because the overreach, taking away the rights of parents, taking away what parents can do, and doing it under the guise of we're going to help illegal immigrants and the kids that are here because they get deported, that is all nonsense. That is not what this bill is about.
It is all in line with Rahm Emanuel's "Never Let a Crisis Go to Waste."
Well, you don't have to say Rahm Emanuel. We've already heard Governor Newsom say it.
Yes.
He said it in 2020.
Well, now let's talk about another piece of legislation. There was AB 68, which unfortunately didn't go anywhere in the California legislature this year, which required armed campus resource officers on schools. And basically, made sure that you had a good guy with a gun on every campus within the state of California. Um, I know this is something that was near and dear to you. What do you think about this? And how would you go about solving this problem since this piece of legislation didn't pass?
We will, with me as the governor, eventually we will have a armed law enforcement person on every single campus in this state. You cannot be that naive and truly stupid to not remember history why we have this in the first place. We absolutely must ensure that for our kids to learn, they are in a safe and secure environment. And back when the first school shooting we had in Colorado, every single law enforcement and school in the country moved toward making sure that law enforcement was involved, so we had people on campus that we could keep our kids safe. And now this progressive left love affair with criminals that blame cops for everything. It's cops. We are the fault of everything in the world, according to the far left, and particularly in the school systems. What this truly is their belief. This made up term of school to prison pipeline, and their belief is that kids only end up in jail and prison because the school resource officer put them in the system for doing something wrong. And they completely disregard the fact that you have to break the law multiple times. I mean, maybe the first time you got in trouble, but you chose to do it again and again and again. That kept you in the system. You choose criminal behavior. It's not the cop that did it for you. And right now, and it's been for the last probably 4 years, there is a move across the entire state of every school to eliminate school resource officers. They do not want us in the schools. And we fight this here all of the time. And I'm telling you, I'm going to go one step further of when I talk about this, but I am telling you right now, our current legislature and our current government agenda that is pushed and focused by the governor does not care about the safety and the security of your kids. They care more about criminals than your kids being victims. And we are even fighting our school districts, so much so where I have arrested administrators because the mission in the school system, some school districts are refusing and they're fighting back a little bit, but the majority of schools, the push is they do not report crimes to law enforcement anymore. There's a loophole in the law that they get around, and they report everything to CPS. So if there's a rape on campus, they wait a couple of days, say it's a teacher. Teachers allege that the teacher rapes a child. And so how they deal with it, these schools, is they will wait a few days. They'll put the teacher on admin leave. They'll wait a few days or weeks, and then they will report that to CPS, not law enforcement, CPS. CPS gets it, and CPS job is, well, this is supposed to be reported to law enforcement, so this is a cross report, and they do nothing with it because it's criminal. That's not their job. But law enforcement was never notified. So we have had to arrest school officials here in Riverside County for failing to do their job because they are mandatory reporters. This is an agenda in our schools. So this new bill, don't think that they're caring about your kids. They don't. They are protecting criminals, and they are protecting themselves from criminal activity happening at school, where they can exempt themselves and just say, oh, we did what we were supposed to do. And they're not there for the safety of your kids. And I will just to be fair, it is not everyone. There are fantastic principals out there, fantastic administrators, fantastic, amazing teachers, but it certainly isn't all of them.
No, it most definitely isn't. I've been a school board member for 20 years, and I can tell you we have some really, really good. In our board, we have both right and the left, and but we've always made it a point that protecting the kids is one of our number one focuses, one of our number one jobs. And I don't understand why the idea of having someone on campus who is trained as a first responder to public safety issues, why having that person there on campus is such a bad thing. It's like saying, well, so if there are police on the streets, does that mean that people feel like they're going to be sent to jail? I grew up in Richmond, California. We had law enforcement, not just we didn't just have resource officers. We had cops on campus who also became football coaches and helped us out. But they were an active part of the school environment. And I'll tell you what, in school, I felt safer having them there than not having them there.
Yeah, if you ask the good kids, they love the deputies on campus. They're a resource for them. They're a mentor. They're an adult that they can confide in. If they don't want to tell a teacher, they don't want to tell their parents, they want some advice. They act as mentors. They act as big brothers and big sisters. It's you're still right. They still do. They still become coaches. They still help out outside of their law enforcement job while they're there. And the majority of kids absolutely love them on campus. The criminals, of course, don't. The criminal families, the kids with kids that are doing the wrong thing, their parents don't want kids on campus because their kids keep getting in trouble. And that's it. Some of the teachers, they're like, we want you here, but the administrators say no. The districts are pushing them out. And it's a crazy world we're living in. This environment of public safety that I deal with constantly. It's this whole concept of criminals being victims and they just get taken care of, and there's no regard for law-abiding residents or for victims. Victims just get pushed aside, and we only care about criminals.
Right. Well, it seems like the most vulnerable parts of our society take a back seat to the interest groups of the left. And another great example has to do with post-pubescent males in girls' sports. Now, I can tell you, I'm an elementary school board member. We have sports in our schools, and we're elementary school district, so all of our kids are prepubescent. So the boys and girls compete together. It's co-ed. But once you get past puberty, there's a significant physical advantage that males had, that those who were born males and gone through puberty as males have over female athletes. And I gotta believe that people who really want to protect kids are going to protect our young girls, protect their ability to participate, not just be able to compete, but be able to participate safely without having to worry about that physical advantage potentially causing harm to them physically in sports. Where's your position on that?
Yeah, so my position comes as a dad of boys and girls that were very athletic. I have a daughter and 3 boys that were very athletic. And then I was also a high school and middle school coach. So this is from not only of a parent perspective, but from a coach perspective. I will tell you unequivocally, there is absolutely no place ever for those age, even middle school. Some of them might be that borderline of what you're talking about, but middle school particularly, and especially high school, there is absolutely no place for a boy to be competing against a girl. The physical differences are so great that it is unimaginable that we will allow a boy to participate with a girl. And I will take it one step further because you brought it up with the pubescent and everything else. Here's an extreme at the high school level. You have a 9th grader who could be 14, and you have a 12th grader who could be 18. With me as your governor, as a dad that's on that campus, or as a coach that would have been on that campus, there will never be an 18-year-old boy walking around naked in a 14-year-old girl's locker room, or vice versa. And the fact that we are having this conversation, that adults have allowed this conversation to deteriorate so far that you have absolutely no common sense and absolute no sense of decency, morals, or integrity or ethics is amazing to me. It's absolutely bizarre that this is even a conversation.
Well, what gets me about this is that there are 2 groups of individuals in this particular case that we're talking about. You have those that are transgender, that truly believe that they are of another gender, but I happen to believe there's also a group of males who fetishize it, right? In other words, for them, they don't really believe they're women. They just enjoy being able to be in women's spaces and be able to be nude or take advantage of. I mean, we've seen instances where where males have been allowed in females' locker rooms and it has resulted in girls being sexually assaulted. We've seen instances where males identify as female, are put in women's prisons, and then basically are getting female prisoner, either raping them or having sex with them and getting them pregnant. You in the end, you have to be making decisions that are going to be keeping women safe. And the left just doesn't seem to understand that very basic concept.
Yeah, they don't at all, and they twist words, they twist things, they call you names if you don't agree with it. But here's the bottom line, and this truly is: there's no other way outside of this. A trans person, if you want to be trans, that's all great. And here's the reality: if you are a boy that wants to transition to a girl, so you're going to act like you're a girl, you are pretending that you are a girl. You are not a girl. You will never be a girl. You are a boy pretending to be a girl. You have that right to pretend. We do not have to go along with your pretend, and our rights don't get violated. That young girl's rights and privacy and protection doesn't get to be violated because she has to go along with your pretend. This is your pretend. So you pretend if you want, but we are not going to put other people in positions that they have to compromise their beliefs, their morals, their safety, their fears, and everything else because of someone else's pretend.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, and that brings me to my next question. California has become a sanctuary state for so many different things, whether it's for transgender, as they call it, gender affirming care. I call it sex trait modification surgery. Whether it's illegal immigrants, California seems to be willing to defy federal law and welcome in all sorts of things. How can you address some of those things? Because I think we've seen the problem that it's created, whether it's the increase in homelessness, whether it's the increase in poverty, whether it's the increase in illegal immigration. I mean, you name it, across the board, California's defiance of not just federal law, but of societal norms. You can see how it is harming our state, and it's harming the most vulnerable within our state. How do you address that as a governor?
That will be my priority as the governor, is the people that are harmed by these horrific laws and how it's coming about. But we have to also be clear, this didn't happen yesterday, and it didn't happen last year. This has been going on for a decade, maybe even 2 decades, maybe even longer. It's just no one was paying attention because it really didn't affect everyone until now, and it didn't affect you until now. And you, meaning us, you particularly, when you finally decide, hey, this is ridiculous. And then when did they do that? And you find out that it was 4 years ago that law passed. And it's like, where was everyone? So the reality is, this is a new thing for us to learn about this bill, because for the past 20 years, they've done everything in secret, everything inside their little walls, and since 2016, it's been a supermajority, so they do absolutely anything that they want in the little privacy of their own little state capitol building rooms, and no one ever knew about it. And what's happening now is you have a couple of legislators that are there with common sense and morals and decency that are yelling, from the windows, sending out the alarm bells, and then you have law enforcement who finally, over the last years, is finally standing up and saying these things are wrong. Quit blaming cops. You guys did this 12 years ago is when you started it. Stop blaming us for all of the woes. It was bad laws that made this happen. So here's the whole thing with the governor. We absolutely have been shown in Governor Newsom's governorship the absolute power that the governor has over the legislature. He's wielded it a couple of times, shown us how to do it, and he, unfortunately for us, or the majority of people that think sanely, he did it for bad. He absolutely shut this state down with a signature. And then we're like, how can you do that? Well, he can do that. And then everything kind of died off. We all went back to normal, tried to get back to normal, and there were a couple of bills that we exposed that, to save face, he brought back, made them vote on it, made them pass it, which they did, which was good. But it was only because we were speaking up, then getting to the public, and then the public was standing up saying, hey, we're not going to stand for this. And we're calling out these legislators and these senators, the Assembly and the Senate, for these bad things that they're doing. So as the governor, that's going to be my daily job, is to expose the evil that is going on in Sacramento that is harming the majority of California, if not all of California, just to appease a special interest group. And that's not the role of government. That's never been the role of government. And we, unfortunately, in California have given in to the activists. We've even elected activists, and then we've put activists in these leadership positions in the Assembly, in the Senate, and they're the ones controlling everything. But as the governor, I would still control the agenda. I will control how things get exposed. I will control the media when I have to go to the media and say these are the things that are happening. And in the end, the governor has more power than anything. And if you don't think that's true, then why would we elect a governor? If the governor doesn't have the power, why do we have a governor at the head of government? It was designed so the governor has that power to set that agenda, make things happen, and set things right, or change things that society or the voters think should be changed. And that's what I'm going in there for, is to right these wrongs, to fix these injustices that I see happening, how the system works. It's a machine. It is a very well-oiled machine that has been operating for decades in the safety of darkness, and it's coming unraveled with light being exposed to it. And proof positive of how easy it would be to make this state better is we just witnessed an unbelievable tragedy of the Pacific Palisades being wiped off the map. Everyone loses everything. And with a stroke of his pen, the governor removes all of the restrictions that would prevent you from cleaning up your property, building again, and doing all those things. So they're exempt from all of these laws and regulations. Regulations is what it is, not necessarily the laws. Laws have to be changed by the legislature. Any regulation can be removed, suspended by the governor. And so that's what he did. So everybody was all clapping and, oh, thank you for taking care of the Palisades. And that was, oh, look at our governor, how great, how great. But I sat back and said, wait a minute. If he could do that for that small group of people, which rightfully he should have, if it was that easy, why is he not doing it for the rest of the state who's suffering the same things? We can't build houses either. It takes us 3 to 5 years to build a house. Why? If it's that easy to remove, and we can lower the price of housing, lower the price of everything just by getting rid of those regulations that are preventing the houses from being built, look how easy we could make it here for builders, for homeowners, for home buyers. And you have to realize a lot of the Republicans in this race, we are all very pessimistic people. And it's very easy to say, California is too far gone. You can't fix it. Tell me how you're going to fix it. Oh, you can't do that. You'll never be able to work with a Democrat legislature. You'll never be able to work with a supermajority. Well, the reality is Riverside County is blue, and I have a 4-1 Democrat board. So obviously I can work with the other side, and I get everything I want done here because everything I'm doing is for the betterment of the community. And if they don't go along with what's best for the community, I will expose them, and they know it. And I'm just going to take that to a bigger stage. That's it. And we have to realize this is the thing. Don't believe that you are electing all of these smart, intelligent, brain surgeon, rocket scientist people to be in your government. I have met a lot of them. They can't carry a conversation. They can't finish a sentence. They can't complete a complete sentence. They are not rocket scientists. So, and look what they're running your government. So don't think you have to find a rocket scientist to put them in that position to fix government. You have to put somebody in that actually knows how it works, knows who's doing what, knows how it has to be fixed, and you have to have the leadership ability to get it done, because people are not going to necessarily agree with you. You have to lead them to do the right thing. And when we find that person, we should be electing that person instead of electing celebrities and millionaires and billionaires, people with fancy names or fancy hair because they look good or their name sounded good. That's how we elect people now. It's not based on character, leadership, integrity, and those types of things. And that's why we're in this position. So government is very easy to run. And the reason it's easy to run, because you're supposed to be doing everything for the public. It's supposed to be transparent as hell. Everyone should know what your government is doing because the government belongs to us. And when we're hidden from everything that they're doing, you know they're doing wrong. And we have to actually have somebody there willing and able to go in and blow up this machine, put the gears all back together, and make it run better.
I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. And, the members of CRA are committed to conservative principles, conservative values. And I'm sure they'd love to hear more about your support for those values. How do they learn more about Chad Bianco for governor?
Absolutely. Thank you. You can get BiancoForGovernor.com is the easiest place. And then we've got lists of everything that are in there. Where you can find out where we're going to be. As you're going through here, I might. Yeah, it's all good. You can go to the website. We actually redid it and updated it today. So I think you have a cached version, which is fine. It's all good. We just made some improvements to it. And the improvements will be coming along. But you can sign up to help. You can sign up to get information, your email address, and tell us what you would like to hear, whether it's updates or whether it's to help volunteer, donate, all of those things. And I have to tell you, we've got cool T-shirts and hats on there too. They do good for you on weekends.
Excellent. Sir, thank you once again so much for coming on the program. And, as we either get closer to the primary election or as we, if you are in the general election, would love to have you back on the program to talk about the campaign.
Absolutely. We'll be here for sure.
Excellent, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheriff Chad Bianco. All right, folks, well, that's going to be it for this week's program. Once again, we very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to join the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. We'll talk to you again next week.